Hello.
Hi Sue. Hi,
Oh,
how's it
hi
going?
there.
Hi,
Yeah,
yeah,
good, thank
I'm
you.
just letting Janet join as a panelist as well, and then we'll make a start.
Okie dokie, would you like me to open?
Yes, feel free.
Okie dokie.
So
Just let,
while I'm just waiting for Janet to join, I'll just go through a few ground rules for those that have already joined in today. So this webinar is being recorded. So anything that if you need to share it with any colleagues afterwards or anything like that, you'll get a link after the webinar. There's also going to be a Q&A at the end, so feel free to make a note of any questions as we go through it. So I've just got Janet joined as well, so I'll promote her. Great. So feel free to make any questions as we go, make a note of any questions as we go through the webinar, and you'll get a chance to ask those at the end. But you can also email them after the webinar as well, and we'll provide contacts for myself and for Janet at the end of the webinar, so you can feel free to email both of us. There's also going to be an opportunity for those who stay through the entirety of the webinar. I'll be able to send you a link to a video that we've made for supplement claim substantiation. And then you'll be able to, it'll kind of summarize everything we go through in this presentation, sort of a 5-minute video. So if you stay to the end of that, you can sort of say if you like that video as well, and I'll provide you with a link. So without further ado, I'll pass over to Sue, who's going to introduce today's presentation.
Good morning to everybody, and thank you for joining us today in what are quite troubled times. There's no two ways about that. I'm sure everybody's using their ingenuity to move their business to a sort of working from home status as far as is possible. And obviously we're doing the same here at Ayton Global Research. We took some very early precautions in terms of the COVID situation. And back towards the end of January, the beginning of February, we began to quarantine some samples for the recommended period of time, and also quarantine any mail that was coming into the building. And then we moved our staff to a working from home position as soon as we possibly could. So Ayton System Software has really been the backbone of the continuity of our business over the last month. And it runs on a server that allows it to operate 24/7. And so when you place an order on there, we have a team of staff who are working from home to put that order together for you to conduct your consumer studies. We also have been reaching out to people who are interested in market research that doesn't involve physical samples, to see whether there's any way that we can help our customer base, which now reaches over 450 clients around the world, to see where they should be pointing their efforts. There's clearly a trend towards hand cleansing sanitizers, antiseptic hand sanitizers and hand gels and things like that at the moment, and a lot of our UK base and some of our American base and Australian base are certainly pointing a lot of their R&D towards that. However, continuity is an important thing, and we're fully up and running for all types of consumer studies that generally run through our system. And today we've chosen to focus on the development of supplement brands. And so just to say that if you have any requirements in this direction, we are fully open for business, and the only way in which our service differs is that you need to add 72 hours onto your lead time to allow for the quarantine period for when products actually arrive in our packing facility before they're allowed out of quarantine to be packed and moved on to the various participants in the study. If all of you have access to the Royal Mail website, you will see on there's a specific part about sending packages overseas during the COVID-19 outbreak. And so far, there are a number of countries listed. The only one affecting us, or two that are affecting us, firstly is India. Our partners in India are on lockdown, and furthermore, India aren't receiving samples. So we can't operate in India at the moment, but we do have other territories that replicate the climate in India and also the predominant skin types. And then the other country is South Korea, where we have a certain amount of work going through, but we're not taking any new orders for South Korea until the position's a bit more clear there. All of the other territories listed on the Royal Mail website aren't territories that we necessarily do business in directly at the moment. But if you have requirements in those territories, then clearly We can look at them on a case-by-case basis and see if we can replicate them in similar climate zones on similar predominant skin types. But I want to hand over very quickly to Carys and to Janet today. I don't want to take up too much time. I'm just here really as the message of reassurance that it's business as normal for the time being. So welcome to Janet. Janet has got an incredible career that spans many, many years, seeing brands all into retail outlets and distribution chains all over the world. And Carys is our regulatory advisor who ensures that every study that you do is completely compliant in any territory. And we do operate in around about 35 territories. So back to you, Carys.
Hi, great, thank you, Sue. So yes, today we're talking about developing a supplement brand. So obviously for our side of the company, I'll go into the agenda actually for you. Obviously from our side of the country, we're a consumer research company. So we go across all kind of industries and all kinds of types of products, but a lot of our work does focus on the cosmetics industry and the beauty industry. And supplements have become a really big part of this industry as well. So we've done a lot of consumer research for supplements. And we can talk a little bit about the legal framework for testing supplements and all the regulations that are in place when you're marketing your supplements and how you get that data to substantiate those claims. And then Janet's sort of history and experience is to do with the actual brand design and development, so from concept to shelf. So she'll talk about that in a bit more detail as well. So we're kind of encompassing both of our sort of expertise, and we're going to be looking at a case study for a client that we worked with together. So Janet's developed their business and their products, and we did all the studies for them to substantiate those advertising claims. So I did a little bit of an introduction. Sue, I don't know if you want to introduce yourself. Oh, sorry, I think we've lost Sue. That's fine, I can introduce Sue. So she's our, oh, sorry. There she is.
Well, that's all right. Yeah, I can just make a very brief introduction. Basically, I've been in the beauty industry since I was 16 and I studied in beauty therapy. I think it's given me a good angle in terms of helping our customers to become really, really successful, because I can have a look at a particular SKU and decide which way that's going to be used to its best advantage, and help out with usage directions for that sample. And I can honestly say that all of the clients that we've had have had enormous success in terms of improving the claims that they make about their products and their sales. If that wasn't the case, they wouldn't come back. In terms of supplements, we cut our teeth on supplements with HealthSpan many years ago. Probably about 15 years ago, we began running studies for HealthSpan, where we looked at the effect of vitamin supplements along with skincare regimes to improve people's skin and well-being overall. So we do have a long history of this. We've also done them for many high street stores in the UK and also overseas. So I'm behind the development of Ayton system software, and I did talk about that a little bit earlier on. It's been developed bespokely, if you like, for the beauty industry, but it does do other things in other sectors as well. Thank you.
Great. And as Sue introduced me, I'm the regulatory specialist and advisor for Ayton Global Research. So my speciality lies very much within the regulations to do with consumer research, but also I try and focus on the products that we know that our clients are going to test and the countries in which they're going to test their products in. So I started out in the company as a study manager. So at Ayton Global Research, we basically assign a study manager to each client. And in that way, we can learn everything about your business and your products and how you'd like to work and all of your procedures that are in place. And then we make sure that obviously we've got one member of staff that is fully trained to deal with that client and know everything about them basically. So that's how I started off, and then I went into the training role for the company and mainly training staff but also training our clients, and found that the biggest part of that was actually to do with the regulations, making sure that everything that we were doing and how our system works and how our clients work and our staff was all compliant basically, and all of their studies were going from the methodology right into the results in a completely compliant way so they can use that data. So I really decided to take over that role as making them sort of a full-time role, if you like. So that's kind of where my specialities lie. It's all about the regulations and making sure that products are compliant and that our studies are compliant. Janet, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Thank you, Carys. So, hi everyone, my name is Janet Milner-Walker and I'm the founder of a company called Bespoke Advantage. I have spent the past 20 years working in the beauty industry, and I've worked across, well, beauty, luxury goods, and retail. And I've been fortunate enough to have experienced this industry from a number of different angles by working for contract manufacturers, retailers, travel retailers, distributors, and with beauty brands. So as you can hear, I'm South African, and my work has taken me from South Africa to the UK and the Middle East. So I've worked with companies in all of those markets. And my background was in retail buying and product development. So I've developed brands in the beauty industry across all categories, from skincare to cosmetics, fragrances, working for companies that include Marks and Spencer's, Crabtree and Evelyn, Harvey Nichols in the Middle East, Body Shop and Boots. And having worked with brands and founders throughout my career, as I worked in retail and I launched those brands into the retail industry, I decided to set up Bespoke Advantage as a beauty brand management company in 2017. Very passionate about working with people to help them to grow their business across this marketplace. And since launching in 2017, I am really pleased to say that we work with a number of exciting brands to develop new concepts that make a real impact in the industry. So we're not just about developing brands, but we are about developing brands that have a meaningful impact on people's beauty and on their health and their wellness. Thank you, Carys.
Okay, thanks, Janet. So I'll go into sort of the meat of the presentation now. So to really introduce sort of what we do and why we do it and how that affects developing a supplement brand, I want to talk about consumer research. So as I mentioned, we're a consumer research company. So we basically focus on in-use tests, which are about the consumer perception of a product. So obviously you have things like instrumental studies and clinical studies that you may need to put into place if you are testing a product and finding out about your claims and testing the efficacy. But we really focus on the actual conditions of the product in use and how consumers perceive that. You find that with some instrumental tests and some clinical tests, it's actually not enough just to have that data, that scientific data. You also need perception tests as well to prove that the consumers can perceive the effect with the naked eye. So for example, if you were looking at a wrinkle cream, and you'd had an instrumental study that used a really high-tech camera to get that really zoomed in shot of the wrinkles and say, yes, they definitely are filled out, but the consumer can't actually perceive that at all. You actually could have your claims come under scrutiny, because you might get your consumers complain about your product and say that it didn't work, and you sort of you're back to the drawing board then. You can also find that there are certain claims that you don't need instrumental studies or clinical studies for at all. You can just have the consumer perception test, which is actually a lot cheaper when you're sort of developing your product. So it's a really cost-effective way of developing a product and getting those claims substantiated. So most of our studies are in-home user studies. So that's where we send a product for a volunteer to test at home, and they answer an online questionnaire. And this is another reason why we're able to be global and work so efficiently as an international company, because we can send products anywhere in the world for people to test at home, and they can access, as long as they've got access to the internet, they can answer questionnaires about that product online. This is really important for a lot of claims as well, and I'll talk about this in a bit more detail, but obviously depending on where you're selling your product, you may need to test it in numerous countries. And by using a consumer research company and doing it as an in-home test, we can gather all of that data together. So you may need some additional evidence as well. So like I said, for some claims, you just need consumer perception. For some, you may need instrumental studies, and for many, you need both. But we can go through some examples of that. So why conduct consumer research studies? So as well, I've talked about advertising claims and substantiating them and testing your product's efficacy, but there's also really real marketing benefits to doing consumer studies. So you can ensure your product is compliant in all those chosen markets, but you can also find out what market suits your product, and you can target your key demographic. So whether that's saying it's for all hair types, and you can sort of go in the UK maybe, and we can recruit people with every single type of hair in the UK. You can also say it's very suitable for people that are living in parts of Asia or Australia, the USA, and you can really target that demographic. But you can also find out the product acceptability and propensity to buy in those different countries. I've worked with clients before that have a best-selling product in the UK that does incredibly well over here, but when we tested it somewhere in for example, China, that didn't get the same response to the product. This can be about different skin types, it can be about different ambient temperatures affecting the use of the product, but it can also just be about preference. And also it's getting sort of a price point for that product. So if it's a real luxury product over here, you may find in a country where it's a slightly different currency sort of exchange, you need to sort of price your product differently in order to be able for it to be sold there. Examples of some of the claims that we can substantiate. So you might have something like 88% of people agree their skin felt protected all day. 9 out of 10 people would recommend this product to other families. So that could be other women, it could be to their friends and family, sort of examples there. 96% of people agree that products are non-sticky and non-greasy, and that can go across a whole range of different products in the beauty industry. So they're all basically things that either are to do with about a marketing effect on people, or anything that a consumer can perceive. So why you choose us, basically, that's consumer research, but why should you choose us to conduct your consumer research for you? So basically, I'll go through the kind of like list in no particular order. We're GDPR compliant, of course we must be, because we operate within the EU and we're an EU-based company. However, not every research company sort of has the same sort of detail that we do. So we've got an ISO 27001, which is a certificate which basically means that we are audited on our GDPR process. And we also have our own data protection officer that actually is within our offices. So we have someone there on there 24/7 that is always looking at the GDPR. This isn't just about our volunteers and the people that the panelists that are on our studies, but this is for you as well, because as our clients, you'll be giving us really sensitive data like your INCI lists and everything like that. We need to make sure that it's really protected. We also have undesirable event reporting, which goes along with the Cosmetic Vigilance Act. So basically we have a sort of underlie to every single study where volunteers can report an undesirable event at any point during the study. And this is then passed straight over to a responsible person. So it can be accessed 24/7. At any point you can download those results, and you can contact those volunteers to see if you need any more help with that. In my whole time at Ayton Global Research, so I've been with the company 8 years, I've never experienced a serious undesirable event, but obviously we have the processes in place in case that did happen. We've got an ISO 9001, which is to do with our quality assurance. So again, it's just another accreditation to say that our processes and procedures are being audited by a official body. We have got product liability insurance. So not every research company does have this, but they should. So as well as your product liability insurance, we're also covered if there's, again, any issues with the products. And you can inform your product liability insurance that we have that cover when you're testing your products with us. We're a partner to the MRS as well, which is the Market Research Society. And basically this means that we follow their code of conduct, not just sort of as a member, but at a partner level where, again, we're assessed and we're making sure that we're using proper ethical practice when we design our studies. So I've talked a little bit about consumer research and about us, but how does this fit within the world? Why is consumer research a thing? Why do we need to substantiate those claims? And how do we know where to, how do we know if we are falling under the right advertising standards? So I'm going to sort of go across the globe a little bit because every country is a bit different. But I'll kind of give you a bit of a wider picture. So the International Chamber of Commerce have an advertising and marketing communications code, which is basically a framework that countries can adopt to have a self-regulatory system. So I'll talk a little bit about self-regulatory organisations in advertising, but basically that if this is 42 countries worldwide, and that if you're looking at their ICC's code of conduct for it, you're basically going to be looking at the overall picture of advertising standards in every country, or at least 42 of those countries. And basically it just ensures legal, honest, decent and truthful communications, which again is why we do substantiation. It makes sure that everything you're telling your consumer is truthful and honest and decent. And obviously it talks a little bit about, sort of non-offensive advertising as well. So to be a bit more specific, we've got the International Council of Advertising Standards, which was set up by the EASA, which is the European Advertising Standards Alliance. So again, we're sort of looking at bringing that picture in a bit more, the EASA for the whole of Europe, and then within that, every country, well, most countries have their own self-regulatory organisation as well. So ICAS is basically a really good way of finding those countries and finding those different organisations, because the EASA have developed it, but it's not just specific to Europe. It's gone worldwide, and anyone that signs up to that is basically showing that they follow the code of conduct for ICAS. And again, it's just a really good way of kind of getting an overall picture of what the advertising standards are in those countries. You can then go on and see, they've got a database of every organisation that's part of ICAS. So for example, if you're looking at launching a product in France, but you weren't sure of what the right advertising organisation was, you can go on the ICAS website and find out what that is. So now I want to kind of be a bit more specific and give you some more specific examples. So we've kind of gone worldwide, ICAS, EASA, and now we're looking at sort of country specific. So you've got in the UK, you've got the Advertising Standards Authority. For anyone who does any product development in the UK, I'm sure you're very, very familiar with them. It's also a really good code of conduct in terms of seeing what's kind of applicable worldwide. Most countries have adopted the same sort of codes as the EU and the UK. So generally, if you're not really sure and you can't really find any information, I would look at their code of conduct and make sure you're complying with that, because some countries basically have at least what the UK and the EASA have, but maybe not all of it. So at least if you're kind of like going with everything that the ASA is asking you to do, you're probably going to be compliant everywhere, but always check anyway. In the USA, you've got the Advertising Self-Regulatory Council standards, and we're compliant with all of those standards as well. Just a few more examples for you. In China, you've got the China Advertising Standards. In India, you've got the Advertising Standards Council of India. In Australia, you've got Ad Standards. So again, these are all really important to know if you're going to advertise in any of those countries. I do some other webinars as well where I talk a little bit more in depth about specific countries. So if you've got a certain country that you're interested in, please feel free to reach out and I can share a webinar about that. As well as these advertising standard organisations, you also need to be aware of the advertising laws. So some countries, well, most countries have an SRO as well as advertising laws which you need to comply with. But some countries don't actually have an SRO, self-regulatory organisation, and they just have advertising laws which you need to comply with. So it's really, really important when you're advertising your products to be aware of everything. So I just wanted to pick out some more local laws again, and just to give you some examples. So in Thailand, you've got the criteria, procedures and conditions for the production or import of cosmetic products law, which must be abided when selling cosmetics in Thailand. In India, you've got the Drug and Magic Remedies Act, which is to do with the controlling of advertising of drugs in India. You've got the Federal Trade Commission in South Korea, which have got laws surrounding fair labelling and advertising. In the UAE, you've got the Telecommunications Regulatory Authority, which have laws for advertising again. Obviously, that's talking about telecommunications, so anything that goes on TV or radio or anything like that. In Indonesia, you've got the Indonesian Broadcasting Commission and the Association of Advertising Agencies. So they've got really detailed and comprehensive advertising regulations. In Japan, you've got cosmetic products are regulated by the Ministry of Health, Labour and Welfare under the Pharmaceutical and Medical Devices Law. So again, it's really important to be aware of all of these different laws and authorities. So I want to talk about supplements now. So obviously I've given you the overall picture, but let's delve more into supplements specifically. So obviously the first really important thing to know about is what your category your supplement is falling under. So we have things like dietary supplements or beauty supplements, and you need to make sure that you're following regulations in both categories. So obviously if you've got a beauty supplement, people are still ingesting it. So you need to make sure you're following all of the safety testing, you're following all of those laws about ingredients and everything like that for food, because people are eating it, and making sure that exactly it's safe for consumers to ingest. You need to be clear with your claims, you know what category you're targeting. So for example, the ASA in the UK, they have different codes of conduct about how to advertise things like beauty products, and then different codes of conduct when advertising food. And you need to be really aware of, you know, what are you targeting. to make sure that your advertising claims are compliant. And you can research regulations in relevant territories again. So like with most products across the world, you might find that your product is a beauty product somewhere, but it's a over-the-counter medicine somewhere else, or a novel food somewhere else. So it's really important to know what category you're falling into, relevant to the territory you're selling your product in. What types of claims are there? So obviously I'm talking a lot about advertising claims, and that's going to really be the kind of meat of this presentation. So the CTPA, which is the Cosmetics, Toiletries and Perfumery Association. So obviously we're talking a little bit more about the beauty supplement in this case, but it's still quite helpful for any kind of industry. They kind of break down the different types of the claims that you can make and the types of research that are required to substantiate those claims. So that, again, this falls across any kind of product really. So you've got sensory claims, which is anything to do with like the look and feel of the product or the smell or anything like that. You've got performance claims, which is obviously the efficacy of the product. Does it do what you're looking? Was it do what you're looking for it to do? How have you developed that product? What did you want it to achieve, and is it achieving that? Ingredient claims, so obviously that would be something like this product includes this ingredient, for example vitamin C or something like that, and so you have to make sure you have the right level of that ingredient to be able to make that claim. The product aesthetic claims, so obviously, you know, again, this is what the product looks and feels like. The combination claims, so that's to do with products being used together. For example, if you had 4 different types of supplements that you were using in a plan, that would be a combination claim because the volunteers have to use them all together to get that combined claim. A comparison claim. So this is to do with, you might be looking at a benchmark study against one of your competitors, or you could be looking at a new formula, so it might be new and improved formula, so it's a comparison claim there. Subjective claims, so this is kind of your consumer perception claims. What does the subject think about those products? What's their opinion personally? And your objective claims, so that's mainly about the science behind the product, an instrumental study to say scientifically this product does exactly this. Common criteria for cosmetic claims, again by the CTPA. The CTPA have released this, but it's the EU Cosmetics Products Regulation. And there's a common criteria for every single cosmetic claim. Again, this is applicable to any industry, but they must be legally compliant, they must be truthful, they must have evidential support, that's your consumer research data, they must be honest, they must be fair, and in that consideration maybe against your competitors, and they must allow the consumer to have informed decision making about the product. So basically always keep those in mind whenever you're designing claims for your product. Other kind of specific regulations or sort of things in place for supplements. An example I want to put out there was CVS Health Tested and Trusted. So this is just one example of a company itself. You've got the regulations from the countries, you've got all the regulations you have to abide by when making your product and conducting your consumer research, but there may be certain companies and certain platforms that have their own things in place to make sure that if they're selling your product, they're happy with what they're advertising. So CVS Health, for example, said to ensure greater transparency regarding the ingredients of all vitamins and supplements, they have to undergo a third-party testing and verification in order to be sold in store or on their website. And David Trosson from the NSF International has said, by requiring third-party testing of all the vitamins and supplements they sell, CVS Pharmacy is demonstrating a real commitment to trust, transparency and health. It's basically saying that they really care about their consumers. They're happy, they don't want to sort of just put a product on their shelf and sell it there. They need to make sure they're happy that the supplements are actually doing what they said they're going to do. So once you've got all of this data, what do you do with it? So you've got your product information file, and anyone who's developed a product before will know, obviously, this is where you put all of the information about your product when you're submitting it to be registered in any country or sort of submitting it anywhere, really. So this has got all of the information, such as the cost listings and the safety data. But also the kind of testing that you need is obviously anything to do with your consumer research data needs to go into your product information file as well. And any kind of evidence that substantiates your advertising claims. You must name your supplier of research and their credentials, such as relevant accreditations. And again, this is why it's really important to choose a research company that is registered with like the MRS and ESMA, because you're basically proving that they are a reputable company. and that what the data that you have from them is absolute. And you also need to contain any undesirable effects reported as well, and that'll be not just from your safety testing, but also from our consumer research. So just to give you an idea of sort of things that have gone wrong as well, or any adverts that have been pulled down, I always keep an eye on the ASA's website for any rulings that have been advertised. So every week they put out all of the adverts that have been challenged, and then they'll say which ones have been upheld or which ones have continued to advertise. And you can literally search for a supplement on the rulings page and see which ones have been challenged and why. You can see which ones have been upheld, so they've had to take their adverts down, but you can also see the ones which haven't been upheld, because they might have that evidence in place. And it just gives you a really good idea of, if you're kind of launching a supplement brand, you haven't done this kind of testing before, it's really good to know where mistakes have been made in the past, so you don't repeat those mistakes basically. Further advice for testing for consumer studies. So we always say a suggested panel size starting at 120 people for a minimum of 100 responses. And this is really dependent on the claims and the products you're testing. It's just good to have a sort of a ballpark figure for you. But it may be more than this. So for example, if you're looking at a claim for hair types or skin types, you may want a bigger population of volunteers with each hair type and skin type. And you also may find that you don't have 120 products, so you might need to go smaller than that. And we have sort of advice for you about the lowest you can do depending on the claim and depending on the product, and depending on all your panel requirements as well. So we can give you some real advice about there. There's little regulation actually out there about what amount of volunteers you need on each study, because again, it really depends on the panel requirements and the product and the claims. So we can really help you with that. You need to inform your product liability insurance provider that you're using an external supplier for consumer studies, and I touched on that a little bit earlier. Obviously, all the samples need to have been safety tested for us to be able to send them to our participants. And when people ask what level of safety testing do you need, it needs to be at the point that you could put it in the hands of your consumers, because essentially that's what we're doing. So all the safety testing that you need on your product needs to have been done before you send your products to us. Always make sure that your samples are unbranded for blind studies. So for any kind of claim substantiation, you're generally going to be looking at blind studies, unless you want to get sort of feedback on that product, on the packaging or anything like that. But generally you need to prove that there's been no bias in the report for your claim substantiation. And again, we can give you some advice on that one. And ensuring your questionnaire design will support your claims. And we also do offer bespoke questionnaire design, so we can help you with that one as well. So now I'm going to pass on to Janet, who's going to talk through sort of what her company does and also start taking you through a case study for supplements.
Thank you, Carys. So hi everyone. So as I said earlier, Bespoke Advantage is a beauty brand management company. So we are the beauty company behind beauty companies. We work with clients across the beauty and wellness sector. Some of our clients include pre-startups or startup companies. Some of them include busy entrepreneurs who may have more than one business. And we also work with established companies who are wanting to move across into the beauty and wellness sector. So they might be in another sector such as fashion or jewelry, and they have a great idea for developing a brand in the beauty and wellness sector, but they haven't necessarily got the background or experience in that or the context. So they come to us and we work with them all the way through from their idea through to scoping out that idea and creating a strategy, through to building the brand and working with contract manufacturers across the industry, and then launching that brand to market, either through a direct to consumer or it may be through bricks and mortar. We work with a range of different types of companies and across all beauty categories that include skincare, cosmetics, fragrance, wellness and supplements as well. And I'm sure we all appreciate that the marketplace, the retail market environment has changed significantly over the years, particularly with the introduction of technology and e-commerce. And if you look across the retail environment in the UK, we've had challenges over the years in terms of retail going through changes and adapting to the way in which consumers shop. However, what hasn't changed is the principles for developing a successful brand. So these remain the same. People are really looking for great innovation. They're looking for products that serve a need in their lives. And they're also looking for products that are easy to purchase. So you really need to understand your consumer and what they're looking for, and obviously how they're going about shopping for those products. Thank you, Carys. We are based in London, so as a beauty brand management company, we are a boutique company, and our team includes industry-leading specialists, and we provide our clients with services all the way through from strategy to marketing, product development, PR, social media, and sales. And we work with a range of different people. So as I say, we do work with established companies and we do work with retailers, but equally we work with a lot of entrepreneurial people who might come from a range of different backgrounds. And since launching, we've worked with people who are fashion designers, through to trichologists, pharmacists, IT consultants. A number of people at the moment are launching their own businesses whilst running a business, a second business, or they might actually be holding down a full-time job. So we do work with a number of different people, all of them coming up with some really great ideas. But the reason why they tend to come to us is because they have a great idea, but they're not sure how to go about building that idea into a business, or how to, or what's involved in terms of the process, or they don't necessarily have the right context in place to be able to reach out to people, to be able to establish their business. So when we work with our clients, we apply a proven 6-step process that takes them, as I say, all the way through from an idea through to products on the shelves across international marketplaces. So I'm going to briefly take you through the process that we apply when we work with our clients. So we have a 6-stage process that we work through, and I'll briefly discuss each of these different stages. So the first stage we call discovering your niche. So like with all businesses, when you're starting a business and you start up with an idea. So a number of our clients come to us and they may already have identified an idea. Perhaps they have an idea for developing a skincare brand or a hair care brand, or in this case, a supplement brand, which we'll take you through as a case study. And they have this idea, but they don't know how to execute this idea. So the most important part of this process is really to build the foundation for developing your business. Like anything, if you were building a house, you need to establish the plans before you can go about creating the house. So when building a business in the beauty and the wellness sector, you need to have a very solid plan in place, a strategy in place, and it's from that strategy that everything else then evolves. So we will sit down with our clients and we work through their idea, and we understand the sector in which they want to develop their product or their business in. So it might be skincare, it might be hair care. So yesterday I was talking to a brand about developing a business in the hair care industry. I've also recently been speaking to another business, or really the investors, about developing a business in the CBD industry. So they come to us with an idea and we scope out that idea into a strategy, and that strategy takes into account the competitive marketplace. It looks at what's happening in the industry. We look at future trends in terms of what's going to take place in the next 3 to 5 years, because obviously that has an impact on developing your business. We look at pricing and positioning. We take into account, when looking at competitors, we take into account what they're doing and the way in which they're doing it, because what's important at this stage is identifying how you're going to stand out as a business and how you're going to be different. So how you're going to differentiate yourself in the marketplace. And then once we've scoped out that strategy will then also dictate to a degree the type of products we're going to launch, how we're going to price those products, the look and feel of your brand in terms of your branding. And we then also put together a business case analysis so that you understand how much that's going to cost before we go through developing the brand. The second stage we call crafting your story. So this is all about branding. And we work with our clients to develop their branding, not just in terms of the packaging and the labeling, but also in terms of their websites. Branding encompasses a lot more than just the graphic design element of a brand. Branding is about your logo, your colors and your font type. It takes into account your brand identity and the naming and the tone of voice, so your brand personality. It's about your packaging, and obviously the packaging that you use positions your brand. So are you going to be a cosmeceutical brand? Is your brand about really representing sustainability? And therefore we need to look at the type of materials we use, and sustainability is a very key focus at the moment. It's also, in terms of packaging, it's the first visual reference that people have of your brand. So whilst you might have the best formulation in the world, unless people really understand your brand in terms of your branding, the colors, the look, the feel, the packaging, you know, people might not buy into your brand. So branding is key, and it's elementary to how we go about developing your brand. And then also branding, because we talk about brand identity and we talk about brand personality, branding also encompasses your content. So content is key, particularly now with technology. So we need to look at your content, we need to look at your social media, we need to look at the videos that we create and the words that you use. Consumers nowadays are looking for brands that are authentic and transparent, and they want to build a direct relationship with the brand. So they want to know who you are as a business, and they want to know why you are doing what you are doing. Personal branding plays a big role now in developing an authentic brand, and this is your unique point of difference and can make or break your brand. So it's really important to share your story and your reason why you're developing this brand and why people should buy from you as a business. And you do this through your videos, your social media, your content, and obviously all the imagery that we use for your brand. So nobody else can do this as well as you can. So authenticity comes into a big focal point of the brand when we talk about branding and about crafting your story. Whilst we go about developing your branding, we then also reach out to contract manufacturers. And as we develop brands across skincare, cosmetics, fragrance, supplements, we work with a range of different contract manufacturers based in the UK. We also work with contract manufacturers based in China and in Europe. And depending on the brands, the businesses that we're working with and the budget that you have available, we might reach out to different types of contract manufacturers. So some contract manufacturers have set up their businesses as a large business, and they operate in you know, a big minimum order quantities. So unless we have if the brands that we're working with have the requirements to develop large minimum order quantities from the beginning, we may not reach out to them. We might reach out to some of the smaller contract manufacturers. And when we work with contract manufacturers, some of them work as a full service contract manufacturer, which means that when we reach out to them, they will also manage the packaging, and they have an in-house team developing all of the artwork. But equally, we work with smaller contract manufacturers where we go about sourcing the packaging on behalf of our clients. And as we design products on behalf of our clients as well, we can manage your artwork and your graphic design for you. In terms of how long it takes to develop a product, it really does depend on the category of product we're developing. It can take anywhere from 9 months, to 12 months and longer, depending on the claims we want to make as well and how technical that product is. Whilst we're working with contract manufacturers to develop your brand, we're also then looking at the marketing for your brand in terms of your marketing campaigns, your PR and your social media. And depending on how we go about launching your brand, that might be different. So if we're launching directly to consumers online, the approach we take in terms of your marketing will be different to what we would take if we were launching into bricks and mortar. With the next stage we call spreading the word, and this is really all about how you get your brand out into the marketplace. So we take into account things like, if we were launching into bricks and mortar, how do we go about reaching out to retailers? Do we run a trade show for your business, and which trade shows should we be looking at to promote your business? We reach out to agents and distributors. So are we launching your brand into the UK, or are we also looking to launch your brand into other international marketplaces? And therefore we need to reach out to agents and distributors in other markets. If we're launching direct to consumers online, obviously social media plays a big part in this, as does reaching out to people who might be influencers for your brands, or perhaps people where you're building a brand collaboration with them, or brand ambassadors for your brands. And then the sixth stage to this process is what we call revitalizing your brand. So once we've launched your brand, obviously your brand needs to constantly reinvigorate itself. So we look at things like brand extensions. What are the next products we're launching for your brand? Do we then extend your brand into other categories? Do we need to look at how we extend your brand into other marketplaces? Are you perhaps going to also open up a shop, and therefore we need to look at how we translate a direct to consumer brand into bricks and mortar? So this is a process that we take our clients through when we're working with them. And as I said, because we work with clients who come to us at different stages of their business, they might have done some of these things, but perhaps the way in which they've executed them hasn't worked for them. And therefore we need to go back and relook at the brand, and we need to look at the marketplace, and we might need to reposition the brand. So we could be working with people at different stages in their business and also at different stages in our process as we work with them. Thank you, Carys. So today, Carys and I are going to be talking a little bit more about a client that we both worked with, and our client is called Simone Thomas Wellness. Simone Thomas is an award-winning entrepreneur. She's the founder of Simone Thomas Salons and Simone Thomas Clinics, and she's also an award-winning trichologist, a hair loss consultant, a nutritionist, and a bioenergetics practitioner. So Simone is a serial entrepreneur. She's buzzing with loads of ideas. She's very, very creative in terms of how she goes about thinking about new ideas. And when she approached us, she had already created an existing range of products called Feeling Fine, and she had a big vision in terms of how she wanted to go about developing a global wellness business. So we started working together with Simone by looking at her existing product range and also understanding the marketplace, and in this case obviously it's supplements, and as Carys and Susan have said earlier, supplements is a growing sector of the marketplace. So the supplement market is reported to be worth $15 million by 2023, and it includes everything from hair to probiotics. So it's a really, really good and a very solid place in the marketplace that is growing at a phenomenal rate. And Simone had developed supplements, as I say, under a brand called Feeling Fine. So when we worked with her, we had a look at what she was doing. We understood the marketplace. We also took into account her vision and where she wanted to take her brand. And we created a strategy for her, and we decided to reposition her brand. So this included creating a completely new brand identity with a fresh new look, renaming the brand. So we went from Feeling Fine to Simone Thomas Wellness, because Simone is very much a personal brand as well. And this is also a very, other than Simone Thomas Salons, this is another sector to the businesses that Simone's growing and developing. So we decided to call it Simone Thomas Wellness, focusing purely on the wellness market. And as part of the product development process, we reached out to Ayton Global Research to support us in developing 3-month consumer-based studies to validate the marketing claims we wanted to make across the product range. Thank you.
Thank you, Janet. That's great. So yes, I'm going to go into a little bit more detail now about the actual study that we conducted and how we conducted it, and made sure that we could substantiate those claims for Simone. So we had the Biotin hair care plan. So basically this is the plan that we tested, which is what I talked about earlier. It's a bit of a combined sort of claim study, as well as the efficacy claims as well, because they had to take sort of a different range of supplements each day to make up this plan. We substantiate the advertising claims that have already been established from the clinical data on the ingredients in the supplements. So obviously when Simone developed this product, she looked at the ingredients, tested it herself, knew that these ingredients together were creating this effect, but now we needed to get some kind of data from a larger panel to sort of say that a large range of consumers can perceive these effects. So the main claims we focused on were stronger, shinier and softer hair. We also wanted to make sure that hair was maintained in peak condition. We actually selected participants to upload videos of their progress and provide reviews as well. So where we're talking about how consumer research can be used to substantiate advertising claims, it can also be used in those really great marketing ways as well, and you can take things like participant reviews, use it in your marketing, and it gives a much more personal effect to your marketing as well. As well as just providing extra data to substantiate those claims, because you've got video evidence from the participants and not just their online questionnaires. So why did we choose to do this? So we've talked about the legislation before, so I wanted to just draw a little bit about the ASA's regulations, because this is where we did the study. We did it in the UK. So the ASA say that health, beauty and slimming claims must be, so the substantiation, any sensorial claims which are based on the opinion of the consumers should be substantiated with consumer data. So this is things like my hair feels softer, my hair looks shinier, I feel like my hair is maintained in peak condition. These are all sensorial claims, so we need to make sure we have consumer research data for these. They're not scientific. So how did we design the study? So as I said, we ran this study in the UK because that's Simone's biggest market. Maybe she might kind of extend a bit more and we can do some more consumer research studies in those locations. But for now, we were just looking at the UK. So it's a regime of 3 supplements that we use together. So 3-month study, you'll find for supplement studies generally you're looking at least 3 months, maybe longer, because obviously it takes because you're ingesting it, you need to allow for that time for the product to take effect. But particularly when you're looking at something like the condition of your hair, because you can't really tell within a month or something like that if the condition of your hair is really improved necessarily, because it could, you know, sort of good hair days, bad hair days, as we all know. So you need to make sure that you've got a nice amount of sort of length of your study duration. So you're really getting all of that data and making sure that it's the product that's making that effect. We had the video uploads at 1 month and 3 months as well. And again, we kind of asked questionnaires at those different time points. So if we did see that the product had taken a real effect at a month, we have that data there. It might be at 2 months, so it's actually, you know, really managed to take effect. But we're allowing up to 3 months. So you can use that for any kind of duration. You could have a 6-month study and do questionnaires from 1 month onwards. We had to make sure we were recruiting people that were suffering from hair loss, because obviously with sort of a hair loss targeted claims, and they had to have thinning hair had to have lack of volume, and they had to have hair breakage. So these are all sort of the main claims we're looking at. We also looked at secondary considerations. So you can have secondary claims on your products for any kind of cosmetic product, basically. And we were looking at people with acne, who are tired, who have digestion concerns, because if we're not like looking to substantiate those claims necessarily, but we could then put on the product, this product is also suitable for those suffering with acne or something like that, and it just gives you more weight to your product. And again, it's because we know that the ingredients that have been used in these products have got some scientific evidence there to say that they have these effects as well. So really, it's a really good way of just gathering as much data on your product as you possibly can. And then you've got a sort of lots of different angles in which you can market your product. So we basically used all of that data, got all that questionnaire design, all the claims that we made into it. We produced a report for Simone and Janet, which basically said for every single question, we've got a sort of 8 range scale. So 1 would be strongly disagree and 8 would be strongly agree. And we're saying that if anyone has rated it higher, so anything of 5 or above, they're basically in agreement with that claim. So Janet, do you want to talk a little bit about how you use that data?
Hi, sorry. So as Carys has said, we conducted this trial over a 3-month period, and that's obviously because supplements take time to see the results. And so what we did is, once we received the results back from Ayton Global Research, we then analyzed the results, and we actually looked at it at a 2-week period, we looked at it at a 1-month period, and we also looked at it at a 3-month period. And the results that we've shared with you here are based on the 3-month period. So over that period of time, we have other results as well, but these are the ones we selected to support what we're sharing with people in terms of the validity of the products and the marketing claims that we're making. So for the Biotin hair care study, from the results that we received, 85% of these participants have agreed that the Biotin hair care plan made their hair feel stronger. 82% agreed that it made their hair look more shiny, and 82% agreed that it maintained the condition of their hair. So what we've done with these results is, if you go onto the website, and I'll share the link further down in this presentation with you so that you can have a look at how we've applied these results to the website, you'll see that we've shared this on the website, and we've also shared the videos that we've received from the participants in the study, so that you can see how they've experienced the study and also how they've experienced the products during the course of the study. And then we've done the same thing with the Qyton hair care plan, Carys.
Yes, so again, we conducted the same study, the same kind of study methodology, exactly the same, because we know that it's kind of the same, we want to get the same kind of data out of it. But obviously there were different claims that stuck out with the Qyton hair care plan, because there's different ingredients in there that cause a different effect. So again, we've got 84% of the participants agree that their hair looked healthier, 73% of them agreed that their hair felt thicker, and 71% agreed that the supplements promoted healthy hair growth. Just as a note as well, generally, as long as there's a statistical majority, you can make the claim. However, some platforms do require you to have at least a 70% agreement with those claims. So as you can see with all of these examples that we've used, they're all at least 70% agreement, and it means you can use those on every platform. So I know for in the UK on television, it needs to be at least 70%. So it just means that you're able to use those claims there.
And so we've used these claims, as I say, on the website, but we've also used them across social media, and we've used them in our press releases. So once we'd worked with Ayton Global Research to conduct those tests, we then went back to our product development process, and we then designed the labels, we designed the packaging, we also designed, relaunched the website, and we used these test results across everything that we've done. So as I said, we've used it on the website, and you can see, if you refer to SimoneThomasWellness.com, you can see a page on the website in terms of how we've used these results. But we've also used these results across our social media, and we've used these results on our press release. So we pulled all of this information together, and we completed the process in terms of designing the packaging, designing the websites, and then launching the products to markets. So we launched Simone Thomas Wellness with two products, the Biotin Hair Care Plan and the Qyton Hair Care Plan, supported by these 3-month consumer studies through Ayton Global Research. And then we've also worked with Ayton Global Research on a third product, which we've only recently launched, called Skin Quencher, which is a fantastic product full of vitamin C and marine collagen. That's great for your skin, also really good for your joints and your muscles, and particularly good at the moment because it's great for your immune system. So if you're looking for products in terms of supporting your immune system, do have a look at the product we've launched called Skin Quencher. But Skin Quencher, we went through exactly the same process. So on the next slide, I can just take you through the details. So once again, we worked, as I said, with Ayton Global Research. We conducted the same tests over a 3-month period. And so we looked at results of 2 weeks, we looked at results of 1 month, and we looked at results of 3 months. And these, although we have actually with Skin Quencher, we received some really, really good results. These are the ones we've decided to use to support us in terms of our the claims that we're making. And they, as you can see, they are really good results. But we've done exactly the same thing in terms of how we've gone about using these results, and we went through the same product development process. So once we'd completed the study, we then used this once again to develop the packaging, to add to the website, and also to add to our press release. So this is the product range that we've developed over the past, well, we launched the website in September, October last year. And so this is what we've worked together with Ayton Global Research on, these 3 product ranges, and all within the supplement category. And as a result of those studies, and also obviously how, in terms of how we've gone about developing marketing and the design and the packaging, these products, I'm really pleased to say, have also been very successful in terms of winning awards. So it's really important to have studies like this when you're reaching out to press. And people, and also not just press, actually consumers as well, because people really want to understand the ingredients, they want to understand the benefits of the products. And by having supportive evidence like this, you have evidence that you can, reach out to your consumers and reach out to your customers and reach out to journalists to validate the claims that you're making. And more companies you will see are doing exactly this. So it's no longer good enough just to launch a product and to say that it does X, Y, Z. You actually need to have the evidence there to support the product. And through using that evidence in the right manner and sharing it with your customers and sharing it with journalists, it really does support and elevate your brand. So you can just, so over the past few months, we're really pleased to say that Simone Thomas Wellness is a very successful brand. We've received some really good coverage, and we've also recently been nominated for a number of awards. So Simone Thomas Wellness has won the Marie Claire Hair Award for Best Hair Care Supplements. And she's also been won on the following slide, Carys. She's also been she's won the Beauty Shortlist Wellbeing Award for the Best Hair Supplement for the Biotin Hair Care Plan, and she's been shortlisted for the Wellbeing Editor's Choice Award and for the Qyton Hair Care Plan, and for Pure Beauty Global Awards, which is upcoming. I believe the results are coming up in May this year. She's also a finalist for the Best New Inclusive Hair Care Product for the Biotin Hair Care Plan, and for the Skin Quencher product range. So although we've spoken about supplements, and I'm sure everybody on this webinar today is very interested in supplements, the same test can be applied across all categories in the beauty and the wellness sector, and can be used in the same way as well to substantiate your brand and the marketing claims that you're making. If you are interested in developing a business in the wellness sector, the wellness sector is a growing sector of the marketplace. In 2017, it was reported to be worth $4.2 trillion, according to the Global Wellness Institute. And it encompasses a number of different sectors, not just supplements. It also encompasses beauty and personal care, nutrition and weight loss, fitness, tourism, and alternative medicine as well. So it is really a big sector of the marketplace. But whether you're developing a supplement or whether you're developing other products in the marketplace, it really is very important to have the consumer testing to validate your products and to validate the marketing claims that you're making. Over to you, guys.
Great, thank you so much. So before we go on to the Q&A, which I'll just do on the next slide, I just want to talk about the Society of Cosmetic Chemists there and training and events that are going on. So they've got the distance learning course, which is a recognised course in the essentials of cosmetic science, and that's distance learning, so you can do that from anywhere in the world. So if you're interested in sort of developing your skills or entering the cosmetics market, that's a really helpful course to go on to. And there's a link there for the website. There's also the IFSCC Congress, which will be happening in September 2022, and you can register your interest for that now, and that'll be happening in London. Obviously, there was a lot of events sort of on for this year, but we're not sure what's going to happen because of the sort of what was going on now with the lockdown. So keep an eye on the SCS website, because if there's any events you're interested in, we'll be looking at moving those online. So hopefully they'll still be going forward. So now I'm going to leave the contact information open for you while we go into Q&A, just so you can sort of see any, if you want to note down any of the contact information for both of us. So we've got a question in now, which I think will be for Janet mainly. I'll read it out for you. So as you must be aware, food products and certain skincare products entering the Middle East region require a halal certification. So in this case, how would your client develop a supplement brand catering to the needs of different religious groups of people across the globe whilst cost budgeting?
So thank you, Shruti. That's a great question. This is part of the product development process. So if we were working together with you, obviously understanding that that is your requirement, this is part of what we'd be building into the brand from the beginning. So if we're looking at the Middle East market, we'd be looking at supplements in the Middle East market, and obviously taking into account that you need halal certification. And this is what we'd be working together with our contract manufacturers who develop the supplements on our behalf, and they would be building that in terms of their ingredient listing and ensuring that the ingredients that they use are halal certified. So yes, we can certainly do that, and we would certainly look to do that, and equally we could build a testing process in place together with Ayton Global Research to be able to develop that for you.
Absolutely, and we're always very cautious if we're testing products in certain regions, that either if we're testing it, say for example in the Middle East, that we know it's halal certified, or that we're very clear that it's not halal certified if we're kind of going down that route. But generally we're making sure that wherever we're testing, we're really following the culture as well as the regulations of what we're testing and where we're testing it. Is there any more questions in? I'll just double check the chat as well. Oh, that's the end of the slideshow. Let's go back to that. I've not got any more questions in there. I'll leave that open for a moment in case anyone has any in. But otherwise, please feel free to email myself and Janet. You can copy us both in if you like, if you're not sure sort of who to direct your questions at. And we've got another question in, great. So from Kim, do user trials need to be linked to the FSA claims if used on the packaging? So generally the user trials are just to do with the consumer perception. Obviously any claims that are going on your packaging need to have the relevant substantiation. What we are able to do is provide a gap analysis. So obviously it's quite specific. So obviously kind of just talking about it generally, I can't give you a definite answer on that. I need to know what the claims are and what evidence you already have and what you're using on your packaging. So what I can do is provide a gap analysis. So you're very welcome to sort of email me with the kind of claims that you have, the evidence that you already have in place, and any kind of specifics about that product and those claims. And then we can let you know what kind of evidence you need to support it if you haven't already got that. We're always very honest, so don't feel like we're going to sort of say you need consumer research if you don't. We'll let you know. And we also, even though we don't conduct the scientific research ourselves, the clinical research, we do have partners that we will link you up with if we feel that the substantiation needs to have that scientific evidence there. So please feel free to email me with a bit more specific information, and I'll be able to give you some information about what substantiation is needed there. Okay. So we've got a question in, hi, can you use existing CPNP data and use those to make the claims? It depends what the data is, and again, what the claims are. So I would need to have a little bit more information on that. Sorry, it's quite hard to answer these questions, and I always find this. Claims substantiation is such a broad field that I really need sort of specific information, because obviously there's so much evidence that you may already have about your product, and there's so many tests that you have to undergo that may provide specific claims, and every product is different, and every panel requirement is different, and every country is different. So to kind of I can't really give sort of sweeping answers about what level of substantiation is needed for each claim without having all the specifics. So again, Rizwan, please feel free to email me and give me sort of more specific information, and I can do NDAs and everything like that as well. So if you do want to find some more information about that, I'll be able to give you some more information on that. And Nathan, do new supplement recipes need to be registered in all markets? Yes, you need to register your product in whichever market is being launched. And Janet, you might be able to answer that in a bit more, because you've got more sort of experience there.
Well, yes, as Carys said, you do need to register your ingredient listing in different markets. So for example, if you're going into the Middle East, you do need to send the information across to register the product before you can start selling the product in that marketplace.
Great, thank you. And I'll leave that open just a little bit longer, but generally, like I said, I'm really sorry if I can't answer too many specific questions about claims, but it's such a broad field. So we're kind of, these webinars generally are kind of giving you all the information as a general knowledge, but really every claim is different. Sorry, Sue.
Probably, yeah, I was just going to add for clarification the kinds of questions that are coming in about more scientific claims. And yes, of course, you'll need the scientific evidence, but in order to make a claim such as my hair was shinier, my skin looked better, I felt brighter, I slept better, whatever those claims might be, they need to come from consumer studies rather than scientific evidence. And so it's about having a balance of evidence in your portfolio and not just the scientific claims. So every country will require an element of both, depending on the claims that you want to make. So if you just want to say this contains vitamin D and it's known to do X, Y, and Z, that's fine. But if you want to have some anecdotal evidence to say 82% of people use this, felt great at the end of the study, that's something that you need the consumer studies for. So it just depends on the type of claim that you want to make. If you pick up a packet of vitamin tablets, a bottle of vitamin tablets from your local supermarket, whether they're branded or not, they have very little anecdotal evidence on them about what happened when people used them. And we know historically, especially with our very, very successful work with HealthSpan, who are now pretty much global, it's about this business about people sell to people. When people use a product, when they make a positive testimonial about the product, when they say that they would share that with their friends and they would recommend the product, when they say that other people have noticed them feeling better, or they feel better themselves or look better in some particular way, they are the types of claims that help your product to stand out. Just going back to the halal sector again, we always ensure that our volunteers are fully profiled. We have 360,000 in the UK alone, and well over 500,000 all over the globe. One of the profile questions that we always ask them is anything to do with their diet or their shopping habits. And so things like vegan, vegetarian, pescatarian, child labour friendly comes up from time to time, halal, all of these things about the way in which they shop and what their absolute requirements are in order to take part in a study are fully profiled on our system. As soon as we run a study which is for people who have halal requirements, we are very, very thorough in ensuring that every single part of the process of the manufacture of that sample is halal friendly. And just to finish on the note to say that every sample that goes out to our volunteers to test is all made to shop standards. And that means that if you're supplying those samples to us, your samples must already have gone through any toxicological, dermatological, safety testing, anything like that, as if it was about to be sold in the shop. Because after all, our volunteers are only consumers. Except for the fact that they don't pay for their products. We don't sell your products to them. We don't promote your products to them. They just use them, they evaluate them, and they give their feedback online. But to emphasize the difference again, so scientific evidence will be very, very different to consumer study evidence. And I think it's probably true to say, and I hope Janet will back me up on this, that it's the consumer study evidence that is the thing that makes your product fly off the shelf, leap out of the page, and really help your brand to grow.
Absolutely, Sue. So as I said earlier, when we're developing a brand, part of our process is developing the branding, which is not just the graphic look and feel, but also your brand identity and personality. And what's really important is now, what's changed over the past few years is it's actually consumers developing a relationship directly with the brand rather than a company selling to consumers. Yes, companies still sell to consumers, but actually it's consumers that are driving this conversation, this relationship. So they are looking at your website and they're looking at the products and they're looking at what testing you've done and how you can validate what you're saying and whether it's actually true and authentic. And then they're also looking at how other consumers are relating to your brand. So across social media, people are looking at conversations and looking at what other people are saying about your brand and deciding based on those conversations. So consumer research is vital to supporting your brand as an authentic, transparent brand.
Yeah, thanks for that, Janet. And I suppose the other thing to add, that obviously as we're all desperately trying to move our sales and our thing that we do online, it's more and more important that you have an absolute stock of evidence that you can communicate your brand to the general public with. Just having one basic statement about your vitamin supplement or your health supplement is not going to make good copy. Vloggers, bloggers, content writers, they want much, much more than that. If you're going to have your product featured in a magazine and put some editorial comment towards that, just one single statement that is derived from the scientific data is not going to be attractive. What you want is a full page of testimonials from volunteers who have used it, and we can actually hand pick the testimonials that are legally possible to use. You can imagine that if one person says, this is the best supplement that I've ever used, my hair shone, skin was brilliant, I looked 10 years younger according to my friends, and yet 99% of the people who took part in that study didn't feel the same. It isn't possible to use that claim. So what my staff can do, and we have a high intelligence in this area, is to look at the quantitative data that's available. We always include quantitative data, and then we hand pick the testimonials that match the quantitative data, that provide that wonderful editorial that, as Janet says, gives your product some kind of personality. You know, hopefully that helps to differentiate the two different types of study.
Great, thank you, Sue. So I just want to finish with one more question here. So we've got a question coming in saying, following a trial, can your video testimonials be used freely across all media and all countries where they meet the media's own requirements and rules, of course? So yes, absolutely. When we conduct studies where we're asking for anything like before and after photos, video testimonials, anything like that, We ask the volunteers how how we can use the videos after, or tell them where we're going to use it and how we intend to use it. We then collect informed consent forms from them. So we have signed consent forms then, which are basically proving that you can use those testimonials where you need to. Obviously, that we still abide by GDPR. So if the volunteers have a right for removal, basically, and if they choose to have their videos taken down, they can. But we, so far, have never seen that. So yes, generally, when you want to use those testimonials, you just let us know and we'll get the informed consent for you.
And if you want to see what those videos look like, as I say, if you go back to the SimoneThomasWellness.com website, on the page where we've got Ayton Global Research results, we've also got videos so you can see what those videos look like.
Great, thank you, Janet. So I think that is all for today. Again, if you've got any further questions, please feel free to contact us. And thank you very much for joining us. We will be getting a recording of this webinar sent to us, and we can send you that link. And I'll also be able to send you the link for the video, which basically we've created to summarise everything about the legislation surrounding substantiated claims for supplements. Thank you very much for joining, and we hope you've enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Thank you.